recently, like when I win, I don't feel happy. I feel more like a relief. And then when I lose, I feel very sad. And I don't think that's normal. And I didn't really want to cry, but basically I feel like
Gentlemen, I'm done. Okay? Thank you.
no, I kind of want to finish this
You wanna
though. I'm
finish
sorry.
It's up to you.
Yeah. So basically I feel like okay. So this is very hard to articulate. Well, basically I feel like I'm kind of at this point where I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And I honestly don't know when I'm gonna play my next tennis match. Sorry. But
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, yeah. But I think I'm gonna take a break from playing for a while.
So that's Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
Having a bad day at the office, and then saying that she feels as though she may need to back out. Now, her, I feel the worst for because she is so young.
Yeah, man.
And but you know, I also believe that. Well, I'll tell you what. You go,
Right.
and then we can figure it out.
So I'm gonna agree with you on. I feel the worst for Naomi, and that's not to prioritize anybody's mental health over another, right? Everybody's going through something, but I agree with you. She's extremely young. But when I heard her say when she wins, she's not happy.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, like she just feels relief.
Yeah.
And then when she loses, she feels extreme sadness. So I'm like, at what point do you enjoy the game? Like the sports that I love, or not even the sports I love, like, you know, I love to watch basketball. You know, I like to watch football with my husband. Love to watch volleyball. My favorite thing about that is when I see the players enjoying the game. Love for the game. That's why I was so hyped about Golden State when they started picking up steam, because they looked like they genuinely enjoyed.
As a Panthers fan, I miss Cam.
Man, listen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bring Cam back.
Bring old Cam back. Old Cam back.
He ain't old. He's still Cam.
No, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, how terrible for her to be at the height of her sport. Isn't she the highest paid female athlete?
I didn't know. I don't know.
I think she's like the highest female paid athlete, which speaks to a lot, right? Because money and happiness are not necessarily joined at the hip. But just to hear that she doesn't love the game, I am all for her stepping away. Because she's not, to me, she's losing matches that I wouldn't expect her to lose anyway.
That's a very fair point. I feel the worst for her. And when I look at Osaka, the only way that I'm able to understand her is as a parent, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, when I see her and what she's going through, we all have these perspectives, right? So, like, when I was younger, I saw things from a kid perspective. Like, so I didn't like certain things that my mother did, you know.
Okay.
And then when I got older, or better yet, like I watched the Cosby Show. I still watch the Cosby Show. Don't judge me.
Nothing against the victims.
Don't judge me. I'm just watching TV. And I'm only using it as an analogy. I watched the Cosby Show growing up, and I 1000% understood, agreed, and felt what the Cosby kids went through. And I was on their side, going through it. You know what I mean? Like, why would you leave that juicer out?
You know what?
Like why would dad leave the juicer out? What was he thinking? You know, it looked good, it do cool stuff, it make noises. It's like, why would you do that? As a parent. You know what I'm saying? Like
tempt your children.
Tempt your children. So like as a kid, like I understood.
As a parent, I'm so angry with
I understand. And guess what?
I'm angry with you.
But guess what? But guess what? Now being a parent, why didn't you listen to what I told you to do?
Precisely.
Exactly. Like, it don't matter. I can leave. It's my house.
Right.
I can leave something anywhere
And
I want to leave
what I said.
Yeah. Like, so what are you doing? So what am I saying? Right? Like, as we get older, we only have certain perspectives. Right? And as we grow and we become other things, we have perspective on that. So when it comes to Naomi, I don't have the perspective of, being as young or a prodigy, right? All I can see is if that was my kid. You know what I'm saying?
I have the perspective of the young athlete.
So let's do that
All
first.
right. So, I grew up in a small town.
For sure.
And let's be clear, I am not some stellar collegiate athlete. I just played sports in junior high, high school, stuff like that.
She was good though.
That was good. So I played basketball from the 5th grade all through high school, right?
Facts.
Volleyball 7th grade through high school, track up into the 9th grade, right? And playing 3 sports, with my team, and then also like doing tournaments outside of high school as well, outside of my high school team. One thing that I had that I feel like the greats like Naomi, Venus, and Serena, and even taking it away from athletics like Beyonce. I am not the Beyonce of basketball. Let me just say that. But they didn't have a childhood. Like, if you hear their stories, I don't feel like they had the childhood that I had. So I was still able to go to homecoming, hang out with my friends, do all that stuff. But to perfect their craft the way that they did, there were some sacrifices that needed to be made.
Okay.
Right? So, like, I watched one episode, and I plan to finish it, Naomi's documentary on Netflix.
All right, I didn't know she had one.
And and it talked about, when she was little, starting to play tennis. And the more I watched, I was like, dang, it looks kind of lonely.
Facts.
It looks a little
just
lonely,
like
right?
Boxing and just like all these golf,
to be great, right? The sacrifice to be great, and what that tells me is there's a lot of isolation, right? That is required of you, right? That's one of the sacrifices that's required of you. And so when I look at Naomi, and this is no shade, I just see sadness. This sadness in her face.
Hear that?
Absolutely, but I'm saying, like, even before that interview, I was like, she's amazing. She doesn't look happy. She does not look like she enjoys the sport. She looks like she's playing for a different reason that is not her own. And
could that be an Asian thing?
Cultural?
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say Asian, but a cultural thing, because like I said before, Beyonce's not Asian.
Culture, meaning like I've seen in like
the perfection. So the stereotype. Let's not say that's the culture. It's a stereotype. There you go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You saved me.
Yeah. I'm here for you. I need this pod to stay up.
Super fast.
But there's this stereotype that there is perfection that is required of the Asian community. And so that could be something, right?
That was on the Cosby Show too.
It was. But what I'm saying is, to me, I wonder how much of the isolation plus potential cultural perspective plays into that sadness, plays into her decision to walk away take a break from the sport. You know what I'm saying? And for what it's worth, I kind of got on you earlier about, why do you see Simone as a team player and not Sha'Carri, Naomi's representing a country as well. It is not a team sport and she's playing by herself, right? I hear you on that, but there is an expectation.
I even got hit in my inbox, and hopefully that person will see this podcast, and I didn't take the bait. And it was a clip of, I want to say it was the Breakfast Club, and it was and maybe, I don't know, or was it, I don't want to get enamored with who and what it was, but I want to say it might have been like Omar on the Breakfast Club, and he was like trashing Osaka because she wouldn't. Omar, what's the homie's name? Super black.
Umar.
I want to say, so this is what I think it was. Umar was trashing Osaka because she wouldn't represent the Olympics for Haiti, and instead she went with Japan, or something to that effect. And I had a homie send me the clip, but wanting my opinion. And I think that is another piece of us as black folks not being able to come together and not protecting, or like being upset that like we have one and she's not even representing us. So it's another added stress to Osaka, to say the least.
It's also black people not being able to make up their mind. Different conversation
And
for a
that's
different
why
day.
I told them, like, yo,
and
like,
wanting
she can
to they want to monopolize.
Yeah,
like we want to monopolize. If you got a drop of black, you better represent us.
Yeah, it's the
or else.
Yeah.
So no.
But that's something else that she has to face. So
right.
like with Osaka, the only thing that I have when it comes to her is the father perspective. And as the father perspective that I have, if that was my kid and she was a prodigy at this sport, I would have to tell her, and not to be insensitive to Osaka, but coming from the father perspective, when it starts with, I don't want to give interviews, to you now breaking down in interviews, I have to sit my daughter down and say, is this what we want to do? Because this is part of the profession. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not being insensitive, right?
So you're not saying, hold on. So when you say this is part of the process, you're not saying this is part of the process, get over it. You're saying this is part of the process, what do you want to do?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, cool.
So like
I misinterpreted the first. Okay.
So like look, you know how I am with my kids. I'm very protective. So like if I have to hire Marshawn Lynch to come down to North Carolina and have a conversation on how to talk about everything except what that person is talking about, because I have obligations as an athlete to give what it is that the sport says is necessary. You know what I'm saying? Or I get fined or this or that, but you have an obligation to the media. Okay? Now, Marshawn Lynch was able to navigate through that by just being like, yo,
you know why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know why I'm here.
And what I'm saying is, if my daughter does not have the, I don't want to call it mental fortitude, but if she doesn't have it to give, I have to have a conversation with my daughter and say, look, I understand that you love tennis. I understand that this is what you do. I understand that you're good at it. But what you have to understand is, if we want to be playing on this level, media obligation is a part of it. So let's have that conversation. Do you want to do it at this level? Because if you don't, I'm going to tell her, I don't think you should do it at all. You know what I'm saying? You're not happy when you do it. You know what I'm saying? But here's the problem with that. I don't think the two things exist. You know what I'm saying? Because let's go back to what you were talking about with where I made it cultural, but then you corrected, or you used a better word, a stereotype. I don't believe, and for the stereotype, to be completely forthright in having this conversation, what we're talking about is we've seen in the media and in TV and all that stuff, it perpetuated that, like, you know, Asian parents are like heavy on perfection, education, or with, you know, hobbies, you know what I'm saying? Success. Like they want their kid to be perfect. Straight A's, master that Maybach, the May, you know, or the Bach, or you know what I'm saying, like whatever.
And for what it's worth, that is not just prevalent in Asian cultures. So this is not an attack on Asian people. Let's be very clear.
It's not. And I'm drawing that just because she is of Asian descent. Half of her is Asian.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So like, maybe if we're talking stereotypically, she doesn't have the kind of parents that would allow that if they are stereotypical parents. Maybe the two can't exist, right? But what we have to also talk about is, let's say that that's not the case. She just can't do it. She ain't built for media. She don't like the cameras. She don't like the questions. She don't like the microphone. She don't like any of that stuff.
But I don't think a lot of athletes do. I don't think that a lot of athletes do.
So if they don't and they can't handle it and they're crying like she's crying in interview after interview, then as a parent I have to be like, yo, is this something that we want to do?
Is she crying in every interview?
Not every interview, but I've seen her cry more in interviews than I have seen any other athlete.
Right.
In a small period of time.
So let me say this. We're going to give her props for finishing that interview because somebody said, hey, we're done. She said,
oh no, she powered through.
I'd like to keep going. And we are going to give her credit for that, right?
Yeah.
And I will say this, you know, we could sit up here and talk about, yo, what's part of the job? Is that, is this, is that. At what point did the powers that be examine why this has to be a part of a job? Why, if I come off of a heartbreaking loss, do I have to sit in front of these people? Some of which...
It is inhumane.
It is inhumane. And so what I'm saying is, for the good of the sport, if you love it, powers that be, stop making people do interviews, press interviews, right after a high-intensity game, an emotionally charged game, a heartbreaking loss, right? That stuff matters too. And that's why I'm talking about, like, safe spaces for these people. Venus has walked off in tears before.
Facts.
Venus has walked off in tears before. NBA players have walked off
Facts.
in tears. It is inhumane for these as grown as they may be, grown ass people. Am I allowed to say that on your podcast?
Follow me.
Oh, okay. Grown ass people. Broken down into tears because they're having a human experience while processing a game that they just played. So maybe that's a different look, you know? Like, I am very big on safe spaces for vulnerability and mental wellness. I'm very big on that.
Sports is about storylines. It's entertainment. You know what I'm saying? All sports are entertainment on some level, right? And that's what we're seeing when we see these interviews. These interviews after games are writing the story. You know what I'm saying? And without that, the sport suffers to some extent, right? So that's why I'm saying, if I'm Osaka's father, I'm like, this is part of the storyline. This is part of what happens. They are about to do a movie on
Serena's
father that Will Smith is going to play. Why is that going to? Why? A part of the reason why that is because of storylines. Is because of the part that, because I believe if they got Will Smith to do the movie, it's going to be about the father. It's not going to be about Venus and Serena.
It absolutely
is. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's a storyline. You know what I mean? Like, so it's entertainment. So what we have to do, if we're parents, because that's the only way that I'm talking about Osaka in this, and then we can move on to Sha'Carri, is in that scenario, I'm going to have, and I feel the worst for her, like I said to begin with, but I have to begin and end by saying, if that's my daughter, I have to tell her, like, this is the game.
Yeah.
This is part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't do it, let's pack up and do something else. Whatever you want to do, I got you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she flew too close to the sun for her mental health. Who knows? But in her situation, it is 1,000% something where everybody else has had to do it. And whether she is crying on that stand because she doesn't like the questions that she's being asked, or whether she is John McEnroe, who is just a complete ass and breaking, rackets whenever he doesn't get his way, or she is Serena calling out a line judge in the middle of a daggone match, saying like, no, you will not do this to me. Like, we all have a response to stress.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if her response to stress is, yo, this is not fun. I'm relieved when I win. I'm sad when I lose. There's no happiness in between. You know what I'm saying? Then I have to ask my daughter, like, well, then maybe this is not what we should be doing.
So can I give a different perspective?
Let's go.
You gave the perspective of a father. I'm going to give a perspective as a fan. I want my athletes, my celebrities that I like, to be around. It is more important to me that they are around than they are present for a press interview, present for a match, present for an Olympic tournament. I want them to be around. And so if the cost for Naomi to be here, to participate for the next 5 to 10 years in a sport that we love to see her play, is for her to take a break, or for her to not do an interview, fine or not, because she got it to give. She's got the money to give. I will take that. Because for me, I
so
care
you're
about...
start making exceptions. You're going to say, okay, look, Osaka is so good.
No, I'm not.
We're going to give her a pass.
No, it's
She's
not.
gonna be the
It's
one
not
that
a pass. It's being a human being and allowing people space to be human.
But you also have a responsibility as a person who is in a profession.
She doesn't owe me. To whose detriment? If she ought
to her detriment.
To her detriment. Because
Because
here's my thing: who are you tuning in to see right now on tennis?
Her.
Precisely. So if she has a mental breakdown, right? And I am not wishing anything on anybody. If Naomi has a mental breakdown and tries to harm herself, and the difference between her harming herself was to take a little time and not participate in this little press junket, or not participate in this U.S. Grand Open or Australian Open, I'd rather her not participate. And it's not, and you could call it an exception. I just call it understanding. I call it empathy. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's no point. I'm not tuning
no
in.
Empathy in sports.
Because
and that's a good point. That's a good point.
And that's
where
the
it
thing.
begins and ends with me.
Because I'm the minority.
Like,
I'm the minority in this. Like I do believe.
But it's slowly moving to where you are. I believe there's no empathy in sports. Nor should there be.
But see, that's a Neanderthal perspective.
There you go. Exactly.
You are a Neanderthal.
There's
you are
no empathy in sports.
You self-identify as a Neanderthal, but that's what I'm saying. Or sorry, let's not take it about Naomi. Do you have empathy for athletes that have a mental break? Because so let me take it off of Naomi for a minute, right?
Okay. All right.
Antonio Brown.
No empathy for that.
No. You ought to, because I want Antonio Brown to win. He's doing exactly. Hold on.
He got a ring.
Right. But let me explain something. Let me get to where I'm going.
We'll drive.
I'm a Steelers fan, and I don't care how y'all feel about it. That's number one, right? So there was a point where you shut up. So Antonio Brown. There was a point where he had the locks. Remember, he had his little Lego cut, and the Nino Brown cut.
Yeah,
he looked like a black Lego. And as time went on and things started going a little left with the Steelers, he had the locks. One part was blonde. He had some blue streaks in there, and he looked like I'm a nerd. I like Harry Potter. He looked like, what's his name? Grindelwald or whatever. And, we sat and we laughed at the picture, and I said, yo, this actually isn't funny. This man is on the verge of a crisis. We laughing.
Right.
But he's on the verge of a crisis.
Yeah.
Right? Laughing now. Something about to hit the fan. No sooner than I posted that, he's in trouble. He's throwing furniture off the balcony. He's having disputes, throwing a bag of penises at his baby mama.
That was very funny.
He's driving. It's not,
I mean,
though. It's not
but,
funny.
Like, the thought of
But, like,
throwing a bag of penis.
He's driving at ridiculous speeds in a car. He gets released by the Steelers. He gets released by the Raiders. He gets released by the Patriots.
But was that due to him being asked the wrong questions? Or media pressure?
No, that's to him not prioritizing his mental health and not having the right people in his corner to make him prioritize his mental health. And what was devastating for me, the one thing that my husband and I kept talking about, I said, he is too talented for this to be his last bout. If he gets another chance, I said, if he gets another chance, I want him to land on his feet and prove everybody wrong. Tampa Bay picks him up.
And now he got a ring.
He gets a ring. And he's looking good this year, too. Mm-hmm. And even though he don't play for my team anymore, I am happy to see him come out on the other side of that. Right. So whatever adjustments were made, whoever is on his team.
He got humbled. And that's why, like, I can't give
everybody don't get humbled.
And that's why
everybody doesn't get humbled.
Why, like, AB is not the same beast as all these other people. Like, he was
not the same beast.
He was an egomaniac who got humbled. Like, no, like Naomi is not. Naomi, Simone, Venus, Serena, none of them have the ego that AB
You don't think that hyperactive ego is linked to mental wellness?
No, I'm not making that comparison. What I'm saying is you brought AB in as an example of practicing good mental health or empathy or whatever. And what I'm saying is I disagree with you because AB was an egomaniac. He knew he was the baddest thing in the NFL. He got all this fame, all this lights, all of this glory. You know what I'm saying? In a small market, and that just he amplified your Steelers, right? And he was the best at his job than anybody else was for a stint of time. And like for his ego, that boosted him. You know what I'm saying? So like he got humbled. He found out going to the worst thing the worst and the best thing that ever happened to AB, in my opinion, was being sent to New England. Best thing because it humbled him. The worst thing because he missed out on a ton of money. But he finally went somewhere where his actions would not be tolerated. Tomlin let this dude that go live in locker rooms, which is like a sacrimonious, like that's something that you're not supposed to do. Something that he got smashed for. They told him, don't do this, and he did whatever he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it.
But you don't think that is linked to mental wellness?
No. He needed mental help.
But that's what I'm saying. I think when you categorize it, because to us, without a deeper lens, right, without taking a deeper look at it, he looks like an egomaniac.
Yeah, that was humble.
I saw him in crisis. I think that there was some mental wellness that needed to take place as well. There were mental wellness issues. I don't think it was all ego. It manifests itself.
Because you do come from the old school that I came from. We grew up together. I don't know my life without you, right? So it's like so what we're not going to do is act as though a good whooping don't make you sit your behind down. We're not going to do that. We're not going to act like,
With what generation? With these new kids.
But no. Just what we know to be true. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it's going to get crazy and screwy. You know what I'm saying? But like, we've been out of line. We've been out of order. We've been in grandma's front room doing the things that we ain't had no business doing. You know what I'm saying? And what we do know is that every once in a while, back then,
correction
through
these hands,
physical force was something that made you behave.
It was a deterrent.
Right. And look, all I'm talking about is you used to get your butt whooped if you was a kid back in the day and you acted up. That's all I'm saying.
80s to the early 90s, you can't do that.
That's all I'm saying. And you can do it in the 2000s if you read the guidelines on your state that you live in.
We are not supporting corporal punishment for your kids.
Capital punishment. But
oh my!
But what I'm saying is, you know, because let's be real, like he didn't get his butt whooped to make him behave. But he was humbled in a way that let him know that, like, your talents do not supersede the drama that you bring to a place. Pittsburgh, your team, you know what I'm saying, allowed him to run amok because his talent was worth more than the issues that he was bringing to your team. If he can go out every year and catch X amount of balls for X amount of yards and get y'all into the playoffs, y'all dealt with that dude as long as y'all could. You know what I'm saying? Until his issues got so bad that he's throwing a bag of dicks at his game mom, and he's throwing furniture out of a daggone apartment in Miami, and he's, you know, texting her when he shouldn't be texting her, and he's doing all the things that he was doing, right? At some point, his production on the field was not worth the drama that he was causing behind the scenes to his team, and he had to be humbled.
But I don't feel like egomaniacs are humbled as easily as you're making it out to be. Because that ego...
He missed out on money. He missed out on teams. He thought he would never play the game that he loved that got him to where he was.
But I don't...
That's being humbled.
No, it absolutely is humbled. I'm saying that egomaniacs to that degree... I mean, he did a complete 180. He did a complete 180 to where I don't even talk about... I mean, except for this podcast, I don't even talk about his antics anymore. So, I don't think that what you identify as being an egomaniac and mental crisis, right, or a mental breakdown are mutually exclusive. I think they go hand in hand more. And there was some humbling that needed to happen. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like I had concerns about his mental wellness.
I had concerns about that too.
Right.
But at the same time, part of him getting help is also part of him
being humbled.
There you go.
Right. No. I get that. So those two don't have to be separate.
Live by themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have to live by themselves. They can be in the same room. But I think when I think about Antonio Brown, the Antonio Brown of the past, I wish he would have taken time off the way, and he, for the sake of my Steelers, he could not. But
why couldn't he?
I mean, he could have.
But why couldn't he? You said he couldn't, so why couldn't he?
I don't. So if I can be
he had the pressure of being an athlete.
But I also think that mental wellness and taking care of your mental wellness is still a foreign or newer topic for Black people in general. Black athletes.
No, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
We're behind the curve.
We're behind the curve, so I don't even think. So I don't even think that it was a matter that he couldn't. It's just that he didn't know that he should/could. Remember how we talked about the evolution? You and I had.
Could he? And that's where the empathy thing comes in, right? Like, you play 17 weeks now, 16 weeks a year ago of football. You know what I mean? And so that equals out to 4 months. And then, of course, you have your training and you have your preseason and you have all of that stuff, right? So, like, he has, if you're a basketball player or a football player, somebody who only works, you know, a certain amount of years or a certain amount of months out of the year, like where you have to be on, where you have games that count, right?
Right, but there's so much that goes into those games. You know how much money and effort he puts into keeping that body tight and keeping his athletic prowess the way that it's supposed to be.
How long has he been doing that? His entire life.
But still, that can take a wear and tear on you mentally.
Everything that we do takes a wear and tear on us mentally, physically, emotionally,
and it's okay to take a break sometimes.
And what I'm saying is they have plenty of months in a year to take breaks.
But what does that look like? So, like, some people, what we consider to be the off season, right, just means they ain't playing no games on the schedule. But they are working. How do you think Tom Brady's been playing? But do you
also believe, so are you also saying that they are as busy during the season than they are when they aren't? Because if you say yes, then I have to disagree with you.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily, not like with travel and things like that. You know what I mean? Like having to travel to these different places. But I think it just looks different. And I think with AB, I don't know if he had the knowledge of the need to take care of his mental wellness.
And what we can't do, because this one was for the ladies, is spend too much time on AB.
No, we're not. But I'm just talking about athletes in general, right?
He was a good comparison, but he's a person who I did not feel sorry for.
Oh, that's unfortunate.